The Federal Reserve System performs a vital function in our economy today. It does regulate the value of our currency by fighting inflation and controlling the money supply through its basic levers of control, which are the Fed funds rate, the discount rate. These are interest rates set by the central bank that set a lot of the interest rates that regular folks and other institutions and corporations use to borrow. Without a central bank, we would really have to be tied probably to some monetary standard like gold or silver backing our currency. And while it may sound very appealing, and while the dropping value of the dollar may upset some people, currencies rise and currencies fall, and as long as we don't have rampant inflation like they had, say, in the Weimar Republic in Germany, where inflation was so bad you need a wheelbarrow full of money to buy a loaf of bread, as long as we don't go there, the Federal Reserve performs a very useful function, in my opinion, in terms of actually regulating the money supply. The value of the dollar drops, or has been dropping, because of a trade deficit, not because of a government deficit. Because when you buy and buy and buy and buy from foreigners, those dollars build up overseas. And then when those dollars are put back into circulation, then there's an excess of dollars. And so therefore we have an adjustment in the value of the dollar relative to foreign currencies. I don't believe the Federal Reserve System is a bad thing, and I would not agree with Ron Paul on the issue that the Fed ought to be abolished. If you want to study history, folks, go back and look at the Great Depression, where we had a very weak Federal Reserve System, and essentially we had tons of people unemployed, factories and farms idle, because there was a financial crisis, because no one was willing to borrow money. In a situation like that, you do need a central bank that is basically going to provide funds at very low interest rates. Like they will do now to handle the subprime mortgage crisis, they need to do that in order to get the economy going again. You could argue if there were no Fed at all, we wouldn't get into these problems, but well before the Federal Reserve, back to the founding of this country, throughout the Civil War, World War I, World War II, the economy has waxed and waned, and believe me, recessions and depressions were much worse before we had a Fed than after we had a Fed. Yes, the dollar has dropped. I don't think that's the fault of the Federal Reserve System. I think it's because as consumers, we've simply bought more than we've produced. And it's a foreign trade deficit that is driving down the value of the dollar, not the Fed. Thank you. That's all I'll say for now.
Can I still ask you questions?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's all I had to say on that question.
Okay, well, now another reason probably for the dollar going down is because of all the money being printed up to fight the war, right?
Well, we don't expand the money supply to fight a war. There is a government deficit overall. I can say that we basically printed the money to fund food stamps, or that we printed the money for any number of reasons. So the fact that the federal government runs a deficit,
right,
which can't be pinned on any particular expenditure.
But come on, just get realistic here. The budget went way, way, way up with funding the war. Right?
The budget went way, way, way up with entitlement programs funded by the Bush administration, like free drugs under Medicare.
Was that more costly than the war?
Okay. Basically, that program in itself wasn't. I bet if you were to look at domestic spending increases versus defense spending increases, the domestic spending increase side dwarfed the defense spending increase side, including the war.
All right.
Okay,
well,
you cannot
let me just skip to the
hang the deficit on the war in Iraq.
Okay, That totally blows my mind. But anyway, that you would say that.